So as I said, taking these things into consideration, we will see how to solve the problem. Beginning, I want all of you to understand that this is a very limited exercise. Lots of shortcomings. One, because we are trying to solve a problem in the classroom, isolating ourselves from the real scenario in which the problem exists. It will never be a copybook case like we will try to solve here. It will be much more complex. Until and unless you don't familiarize yourself in a real world scenario, the kind of topics that we are discussing appears very dry and ineffective. Well, anyway, let's take some problem and solve it. End to it. That's what I want. First problem I have decided I will take up SIS as that was the case which most of students took for themselves to solve. So I thought I will take that and try to elaborate various factors that has to be considered to solve that problem. Second case I will leave it to you. You tell me later. Once I complete the first case, you tell me your choice for second case will solve it. Let's take SIS. SIS for MSRIT is a more realistic scenario since I understand that at least you are familiar about the systems. How to start is the first question. Where to start? There is no formal approach that I can prescribe that you start from here. You can start giving solution from any end. Ultimately you will cover everything. It's kind of ringa roses kind of. But no pocket full of roses. Pocket full of roses. Problems. Let's start. I prefer always this suggestion, you can take it. If you want to solve any problem, there are few things that you have to remember. First, get as much information as possible. How will you get information? One, in software engineering you have studied that's called ethnographic analysis. That is going to the actual place where the activity happens and observing the activity. Ultimately what are we doing? What is our job? What is our job? We are basically meant to automate a manual process. There will be a manual process involving data. Our job is to automate it. Why should we automate it? Because the manual process is time consuming and all sorts of problems. Automation of a process leads to better process management. That is the overall thing you should remember. We don't do anything great, just automate a process. So, assuming that there is a manual process already available, your first job will be to observe and make notes and understand as much as possible regarding the existing system. One thing that you should not forget to do is to study the existing documentation. More or less, every organization will document its process. It will not be an ad hoc process. Any mature organization will document if you have to do this process, who should do what, how should it happen. It may be called by different names in different organizations. Some may call it service rules. If in an organization they already have process certifications like ISO, it will be very formally documented. So always ask for existing documentation and then study it properly for better understanding. Study the process, study the documentation. Then tackle the problem from some end. My preferred way to tackle the problem, which which are used in most of my consulting activities is starting from the user perspective. Try to visualize the problem from the end user perspective and then go on building the solution step by step. It's a very painful, iterative process. You should have enough patience to carry on the process. Solutions are never built overnight. Don't have such assumptions. Okay? So let's start with SIS from an end user perspective, assuming that you have studied the existing documentation. We shall consider one activity after other and see how the process model should work. The first activity we will consider course registration, because I saw it many times. Course registration. We will consider course registration as a process and see how can we build solution using it. From an end user perspective, how do you want the solution to look? End user perspective, imagine that you have built the solution. Don't worry how you have built it. Imagine that the solution is built. How do you want that solution to look? That is what in software engineering is called as user stories. Yeah. Who do you want the solution to look? Just say, then we will build the solution.
So login password. Login password student here.
Okay. Then student logs in through some mechanism. He logs in. Then what do you want?
See the menu. See the fill options.
Okay. We will not bother about the entire solution. Only course registration. How do you want it to look?
So the number of courses providing, the teachers providing the course.
Do you want teachers name?
No, means
who is teaching what course?
No, it's
so
like
okay, so you want a list. You should have courses, faculty. Then credits. Then get some user form you want. With course name, credits, teacher, then you will select. Then submit. Then what should happen?
On submit action, it should check the minimum credit.
You don't worry the system thing. Tell what you want. Confirmation saying that confirm done.
And see what all students have, other students take the same course.
Okay, fine. Tell whatever you want.
Also, mail is my inform saying that it has confirmed for my personal documentation.
Why it is there? No, it comes. Okay, fine. You want that. What else do you want? I must say. Exactly. I was thinking about that. Don't you want a personal timetable for yourself? And see, ideally the situation is that if you study the documentation clearly, what is the documentation pertaining to this particular activity? Student should register minimum 20 degrees, credits. 20 credits, maximum 30 credits. Anywhere between 20 and 30 is okay. So a student is not forced by anyone to take a particular set of subjects just because he or she is in 6th semester. Not the whole agenda in autonomy. There is a list of subjects. If you are eligible, you can opt for any number of courses depending upon the minimum maximum criteria. That's all. So what I am trying to say is, every individual should have his or her own timetable. Not necessarily the way we are working out as a class timetable. There is no class timetable. Depends on individual timetable, when and where you should attend the classes. So let me summarize like this. So the user scenario, if we break it down into screens, should look like this. Screen number 1, login. Right? Login. Goes on to successful login. Successful login goes on to second screen which says choice. Make confirmation, let us consider this is the process activity that we have identified, that is starting with logging every the individual course schedule for that particular academic semester. Now, let us carefully analyze each thing and then build upon the entire solution. This is very simple. But see, what have we captured here? We have captured one particular stream of activity. In technical terms, this particular stream of activity is called transaction. Transaction. What is transaction? You have studied it in relation to databases. What is transaction? Transaction is a collection of independent activities, atomic activities. The success of transaction depends upon success of each independent activity. So the transaction is successful only when all the activities within it is successful. If one activity fails, the transaction fails. Now what should happen in that case? There should be rollback. That is what we call technically. For example, he has made the choice. He has made the choice due to some reason, network failure or any other thing. The confirmation does not happen. So what should happen? All the choices he has done should come out of the place where the score happens and all, and finally we should have a blank slate again. So, information systems which handle these kinds of things are called as transaction processing systems, TPS, transaction processing systems. In building what we call as information system, starting with transaction processing system is a very good idea because they cover the entire span of an activity. Okay? So start with transaction processing system. Transaction processing systems are information systems which handle transactions. Transactions we have defined. If you see this itself, you can identify the common features of transaction processing systems. Transaction processing system usually work in 2 or 3 levels. That is seen here. One is source data automation. See, we have choice. The user should enter the choice. I have said somebody should log in and make the choice. What are the 2 process models available for me? One, every student is given login. He or she logs in, makes the choice. Do we have an alternate?
So every student given a same login and he can register according to his roll number.
You can always claim that I didn't make this, somebody in behalf of me has made the choice, this is not my choice. Is there a alternate method to do this? Alternate way? You go to the department, make your choice on paper. The department clerk will enter your choice. Then all these things will happen, then you get your state. Is it possible? An alternate process model is possible. What I am saying is, see, there are 2 things here. One, the data coming into this processing model. The data comes in, this is the process model, this is the output. So there are 3 streams. Data comes in, some processing happens, you get the output. Normal system model, nothing great. How should the data come in is the question. In one part, the data comes in the digital format. That is, you enter, goes on directly, everything is digital. One is paper based, again enter, then process. You see any system, there are two choices available like this. Take banking. Take banking. What are the ways in which you do banking today? Go to the office, write a check. The man there will enter it manually. Then something happens, you get the output. Or e-banking. You do everything. So, in transaction processing system, we always suggest that source data automation, that is the word we use, source data automation is always preferred. Source data automation means at the source itself you take the data the way you want. Here you want the data in a digital form, so as far as possible take the data in that form. For example, if you want to improve banking system, we have seen that case study when paper checks were processed on the spot for better utilization of the resources, or there can be optical character recognition systems. You just plug in your check there, it will read and then process immediately. That is always possible. So as far as possible, source data should be automated. That is the first principle in transaction processing systems. Source data automation. When you are designing the system, see that the data is always automated. So we take that guideline and say, okay, if you want source data automation, then we will ask every student to enter this data. That is what the decision will take. That is the design decision. Okay? What is the second idea? Second idea is the processing. The data should be processed. How should be processed? Again, there are two choices. One is, okay, instead of going to terminology, I will explain the scenario. All of you enter your data. What can happen is, after everybody has entered the data, somebody can sit on the data and decide whether that person is eligible to take the course or not, based on any criteria. After everybody has entered the data, we process the data together and then take the decision. That is one possibility. Second possibility is, as soon as you enter the data, you should get the result. There are two possibilities. Those are called transaction processing system. There are two choices. For source data, there are two choices. For processing, there are two choices. One is called as batch processing. Other is called OLTP, online transaction processing. Again, if you want a banking scenario, this exists. For example, you deposit the check of another bank in your bank. What will happen? It will take time. Why? All the manual checking should happen. It should go somewhere to the main transaction center, and then they should verify it and then come back. Or within the bank, if you want to issue the checks, it happens immediately. So there are always two choices. Batch processing, OLTP. How you choose the process model, you should decide. Here, we will say that we will choose OLTP. That is our design decision. That is, as soon as the student enters his data, we want a confirmation on whether he can take that course or not. OLTP, we want OLTP model, right? And then the last part is we want to give the results. Please understand here, you are looking at only one perspective. The student makes the choice, he gets the output. Go one step ahead and see what kind of outputs are required. One step ahead. The entire class, what kind of output should be generated? Read output of who has chosen what subject, how many students are there in this course, who have not chosen any of the subjects in this particular group. You want all those kinds of things, right? In a sense, the output of a transaction processing system usually are various kinds of reports. Various kinds of reports. That I will come to it a bit later. Because in this particular case that is not required. So we have taken one or two design decisions here. What are the design decisions that we have taken? One, source data should always be automated. Second, we will go for online transaction processing instead of bank processing. These two design decisions we have taken. In addition to this, there are some supporting design decisions that we have to take. For example, what about login? Is it password based login or should we go for much more complicated form of login? All these design decisions we have to take. If we have finished all this, then we will go for next level of solution.